Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our virtual class. First of all, let me thank you all for coming here today, and we will be tackling about advocacy. Before anything else, let us first start with our ENERGIZER. So directions, using the link that we provided in the chat box, each participant will join said link to submit their answers, which will serve as their attendance and recitation for the day. So Jana, kindly send the Padlet link. Participants are able to access the link provided. I need a response. How about now? Can anyone access the link? Can I get a thumbs up or a yes? Ms. Cahigal? Thank you, Mr. San Miguel. Okay, you may start answering our Energizer per day. So on your screens, you can, it will serve as a visual, and using the clues, fill in the missing letter to form the correct words. Your 5 minutes starts now. At exactly 10:15, guys, there must be, your names must be on the Padlet link na, ha? We will present it in our screens, those who participated for today's Energizer, as it will reflect as your attendance and recitation. Please or kindly put your names above or before answering. You have 3 more minutes. On screen, we have Ms. Acohedo and Ms. Tablo. Two more minutes. 1 minute left. And time's up, 10:15. It's 10:15, so thank you, Mr. Bibis, Mr. San Miguel, Ms. Trisha, Tablo, Ms. Sheena, Mr. Javier, and the others. So what are the answers to the Energizer? So let us first see. Okay, advocacy, 1, 2, case advocacy, self-advocacy, peer advocacy, paid independent advocacy, citizen advocacy, and statutory advocacy. These are the topics that we will be covering for the whole presentation. But before anything else, let me present to you guys the presenters for today. Miss Jana, can you switch the screen to the presenter slide? Thank you. Okay, there might be technical difficulties, but the presenters for today, I'll be Cassandra Muriel Altovar, the first one to present. So the second part would be presented by Ms. Baterna. The third part would be presented by Ms. Dain, and then the last part would be presented by Ms. Daniela Lamban. Okay, let us first start with the objectives. So at the end of the lesson, you are expected to define what's advocacy, compare and contrast the difference between advocacy and lobbying. You are expected also to understand and be able to explain several different ways that individuals can advocate for a cause. And lastly, describe why communication is important in advocacy. Okay, let us now first answer the question, what is advocacy? So as you can see on your screens, advocacy is influencing and persuading individuals or organizations to change. It is an any planned communication that seeks to achieve the communication goals, such as to inform, persuade, inspire, and move to action. And lastly, advocating may not go smoothly if we cannot communicate the ideas and proposals effectively. Generally, advocacy is defined as arguing in favor of a cause or idea, whether it's for environmental protection, minority rights, or the myriad other issues that affect the people's life. And there is no limit to the amount of advocacy a person or organization can do. Be mindful. Next slide, we will discuss the distinction between advocacy and lobbying. Can Mr. Javier read the advocating part? No, the whole part for advocacy and lobbying. Mr. Javier, can you unmute? Thank you.
Distinct between advocacy and lobbying. Advocating, identifying, embracing, and promoting a cause. Nonpartisan analysis, research, or study on a legislative issue. General communication, action that affect regulatory issues and self-defense. Lobbying, direct communicating with legislators on specific legislation. Grassroots are urging the general public to contact their legislators regarding a specific legislation, except in the case of ballot initiatives, influencing legislators to introduce legislation, distributing materials to assist in the passage or defeat of a bill, and directly encouraging a member or the public to support or oppose legislation.
Thank you for that. Okay, so in a nutshell, advocacy or advocating is generally um, identifying, embracing, promoting, or favor of a cause or idea, whether it for example, on your screens it's presented, it can be nonpartisan analysis, general communication, actions that affect regulatory issues, or even self-defense. While lobbying is mm, it has two parts, the direct lobbying and the grassroots. So lobbying can generally be defined as any attempt to influence a politician or public official about a certain issue. So as you can see, lobbying is further broken down to direct lobbying. This is any attempt to influence new or existing communication with a member of a legislative body or other government representative who has a say in the legislation and such. While grassroots lobbying is asking the general public to contact their legislator or mobilizing the public around a legislative issue. Okay, so organizations such as nonprofits cannot ask their members, for instance, to contact their legislators or government agencies regarding the said topic, or it is considered as direct lobbying. One example of this, of grassroots lobbying, would be creating an online petition to generate public support for a certain cause, distributing flyers, or directly encouraging a member or the public to support or oppose legislation. That sums up for grassroots. And what do you call someone who advocates? Okay, next slide, please. You may call yourself as an advocate if you're a person who argues for, recommends, or support for a cause or policy. However, what are the tools or some things you need to do in order to advocate for a certain cause? Then that topic will be discussed by Ms. Paterna. Ms. Paterna.
Hello everyone, I am Helena Baderna. Let's move on for the strategies and advocacy. We have five strategies. The first one, we have the know your audience or understand your audience. As Serdon 2014 advises, to ensure the right people to hear what you got to say and take action of you want them to take, significant work needs to be done identifying your stakeholder, the best way to communicate with them. You may start by answering the following common questions in advocacy. Who do you want to talk to? Where do they hang out? Where do they get their information from? What media do they use or usually consume? Figuring out whatever you want to talk in general public as a whole or different segments of the public will also help you to track down when you are crafting your campaign messages and call to action. The main target audience in advocacy work will usually be the decision makers and the influencers. Decision makers are the primary audience. These are the individuals or group who can take decisions in relation to control policies and programs. The primary audience may include the president, the prime minister, cabinet, department ministers. We also have the funding agencies and community leaders. While for influencers, the secondary audience, these are the individuals or groups who have access to the decision makers and who may be able to influence the decision makers. Influencers may become partners in the advocacy plan. The secondary audience typically includes the associations, organizations, opinion leaders, the media, international leaders, entertainment or sport personalities. It may include also the professionals such as teachers, professors, and researchers. Additionally, trying to find out your audience and understanding your audience Try to find a common ground with your audience as it is easier to motivate someone around something they already believe in or would benefit from. Next slide, please. We have the use your tools. Effective communication, advocacy or otherwise, involves more than just using words to convey a message. Integrated campaigns that include print, multimedia, and interactive content are likely to be more appealing, easily shared through different channels, and thus highly effective. Be creative with your communication. Channels may also be used. Don't be afraid to think outside the box, but also remember the golden rule in advocacy. Go where your audience is. Communication are the heart of any advocacy effort. And as advocates, we need to have more knowledge, passion, and commitment to be successful and effective in all advocacy. Let's take an example of the community engagement. You may first want to cultivate a relationship to earn trust in the community members. Also, find out what the community wants and cares about. We call it community voice. When communicating with them, and if possible, try to meet them where they rather than have them come with you. So this is usually used by the politicians. Politicians usually the ones who visit the city to know their audience and to understand their audience. Next slide, please. First strategy in advocacy, we have to create a sense of injustice. In order to mobilize support for your cause, it helps to create a sense of injustice. People are more likely to jump on board and support a cause that fights for the right thing. Create a sense of injustice throughout the messaging, focusing on the fact while completing with public care. By creating an injustice campaign without overwhelming the people. Of course, don't forget to talk about the potential or the positive change and suggested alternative solution. Lasting the lasting one is to be seen and overly negative without offering a real solution. So it is advisable for advocates to create sense of injustice. Relating to the next slide, please. For the next slide, we have the use effective storytelling. It is connected to the third or the last strategies we have. A powerful way to get an advocacy message across is to use an interesting narrative that will resonate with your audience. We so, we so often have abundance of facts, figuring, statistics, and research, but more often than not, this message alone won't compel people to take action. When thinking about your advocacy objectives, ask yourself what is the human angle. Remember to think clearly about why you are sharing the story and how it relates to your advocacy goals. Being clear about your advocacy goal will help you to pick which story will most powerfully illustrate the reason behind your campaign or change. And that involves building a concise, clear message. The most important part of communication is the message you put across. Build a message that specifies what you want people to know, remember, and do. Your message is one of the many they have already heard or will hear. So make it stand out if you want it to be remembered. Building a powerful message, and remember that you may have sent this message a few more times and follow-ups to get the level of engagement or response that you wanted. Next slide, please. For the fourth strategy, we have or I think strategy, we have the interest the media. Arousing the interest of the media is the cost-effective way of advancing your advocacy campaign, advocates can provide the media with well-searched and interesting stories, while from the advocacy perspective, media coverage can raise awareness and inform the public, add credibility to your message, make it easy for journalists. They are working under even increasing time pressures, or if you can provide them with throughout and useful analysis and interesting examples, they may also likely to pick up your story. The stories that are shocking are and unusual or new or purely human interest are more likely to gain attention in the media. Don't underestimate the value of getting celebrities, politicians, local people's businesses, and school involved. Because with media, it is easier to invite feedback. With you can solicit feedback from media or through media that may also include your target audience. You can also solicit feedback from your teammates, friends, relatives. Speaking to people who have done something similar, read wide, practice your writing and speaking, practice your speeches, and feedback before you deliver them if you can. So you can have a interesting message that can interest the media. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jana Kindain, and I'm here to discuss to you about the channels or methods of communication and advocacy. Number one is social media. Social media is widely used as strategy to strengthen the relationship with other people because it allows direct interaction with the audience. Number two, blogs. This is the most widely used means of providing education information on various subjects. Number three, email marketing is a communication channel that allows the messages to be delivered in a customized manner. Number four, videos. In this format of advocating that has grown significantly in recent times, it's because audience are often watching videos online that is good platform for advocating. So when people advocating, they use media, radio, or newspaper before just to connect with the people to convey the message of what they advocating are. When advocating, an individual need to have a connection with their audience and able to have an understanding, and that's what communication in advocacy is. Additionally, these are the channels or methods of communication and advocacy: in-person meeting, phone calls, social media, bulk SMS, traditional media, and to-do list, community events, electronic communication, and surveys.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Daniela Lampan, and now I'm going to discuss the types and the significance of advocacy. So first, the type of advocacy. Mr. Danny Mar, would you like to read the number one, which is peer advocacy?
Okay, so peer advocacy. So in here, an advocate acts with or on behalf of an individual who has a concern that can speak for themselves. They're usually someone who is similar age and has common ground, a level of understanding where the student is coming from.
Excellent. Thank you. So in peer advocacy, so let's example is the institution setting or school set. So this person have noticed the injustice treatment with the students who have intellectual and developmental difficulties or disabilities. Now, this person want to speak in behalf of those people. And another example is they may or may have not experienced bullying firsthand. So what they're gonna do is they want to speak up in behalf of those students who are getting bullied and don't have the will to speak for themselves. So in this peer advocacy, the usually thing that they want to promote is social inclusion. So in here, the picture, we can see that students helping students using peer advocacy to build community. Now, next we have is family advocacy. Ms. Kahigal, would you mind to read? Okay, Ms. Kahigal is
Hello,
not.
am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Ano, ano po
I
yung
mean,
babasahin?
family advocacy.
Okay. In family advocacy, it helps parents and family members advocate on behalf of the person with disability for a particular cause.
All right, great. So in family advocacy, there's actually one picture there, Miss Jana. Would you mind to press the next so that the picture would appear? All right. So in here, the statement of Joanne, which is a family member speaking on behalf of a child or youth with a disability, says here, is there any way that we can safely support persons with disabilities and their families better? Maybe more home visiting programs. Then the vulnerable persons with disabilities are not being asked to travel places to access services, and consultants can do more consultation to parents, support workers at home. So we can see here that this family member who has this situation where one of their family member has disabilities. So now they want to speak on behalf of those person or those family who are experiencing the same situation. So in here, if the peer advocacy is about social inclusion, in family advocacy is about acceptance and support for those people who are in the same circumstances. Next slide, please. Okay, Miss Acujedo, are you there? Would you mind reading self-advocacy, please?
Self advocacy. Self advocacy is where people are able to speak up for themselves, make their own choices, and let people know how they feel.
Great, thank you. So self-advocacy, self. So in the picture, you can see self-advocacy is the ability to articulate one's needs and make informed decisions about the support necessary to meet those needs. So you know yourself, you know your rights, and you know how to speak and stand for those rights. So people won't be able to trample your freedom and your rights as a human. So next, citizen advocacy. Ms. Sabanga, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, citizen advocacy.
Is it the citizen advocacy?
Yes.
So, citizen advocacy is the name given to the committed relationship between a suitable citizen who provides long-term advocacy to a person with a disability so that they are no longer entirely alone and unprotected given the relatively powerless circumstances.
Okay, so the key word in this citizen advocacy is volunteer or volunteering. So in citizen advocacy, a member of the state or nation is volunteering to promote a certain cause and to protect those people who are maybe in the marginalized section or those people who are being oppressed. Okay, so next slide. Okay, we have in here is paid independent advocacy. Ms. Rebibis, would you mind reading?
Yes. So now we're in paid independent advocacy, where there is a huge demand, for example, where a long stay where a long stay hospital causes and large numbers of people are being resettled, or where a major problem has occurred, advocates may be needed to deal with the situation on a temporary basis.
So if the number 4 is about volunteering, the 5 is those people who are getting paid to do the advocacy. So number 6, we're going over time. So statutory advocacy means a person is legally entitled to an advocate because of their circumstances. This might be because they're being treated under the Mental Health Act or because they lack the mental capacity to make their own decisions. Example is Mental Capacity Act of 2005 and Mental Health Act of 2007. And now for the significance or the importance of advocacy. Okay, so we have in here 3. Okay, the rights, which is the rights, it is to defend the human rights and speak up for them. And then the second is the participation, concerned with move to inclusion, citizenship, and involvement in the community or society. And the last, which is power, in getting politicians to understand public health issues and getting lawmakers motivated to act. That's okay for the advocacy. Okay, are there any questions so far? Clarifications?
None po.
Very well, excellent. Okay, so if there are still questions that you want to ask, you can just hit us up. That marks the end of our presentation. Thank you for your unwavering participation in our presentation, and hope you have a great day ahead.